This is a 2013 Nissan Versa. I'm going to be replacing the brakes all around. I got on rockauto.com and ordered the parts. The order shipped December 2nd at 2:46 and arrived on the 4th, FedEx ground, at 7:30 p.m. The total for this order, $75.64 shipped to me. That was brake shoes was $16.45. The brake rotor kit with pads was $39.79, and ground shipping FedEx was $12.99. Okay, what we're going to need for the job is replacement brake pads from Rock Auto, rotors, a tire tool out of the trunk. I'm going to use a rubber mallet, maybe a couple screwdrivers, a ratchet with 14, 19, and 17 millimeter sockets. To compress the caliper, you'll need either a C-clamp or a gear puller like this one. We're going to use a floor jack and a jack stand. Now let me get everything in place. Now you start by taking off the hubcap. And then we want to loosen the lug nuts all around, not much. Break them loose. Already got the emergency brake on, rear tire is blocked off, and we're going to lift the car until the tire comes off the ground. I do see that this tire is a little low as well. You can use the regular tire changing jack in the trunk. I just have this one, it's easier. Okay, that's high enough. We want to put a jack stand under. For extra safety. Lower it just a little bit onto the jack stand. Now we'll go ahead and take the tire off. Looking at this, the rotors are warped pretty bad. As you can see, these shiny spots. It's got uneven wear. So we're going to replace the non-existent brake pads and the rotors. I just got this car, so this is not me. It's just a lack of maintenance. We're going to take a 14 millimeter socket. Alright, and take this bolt and this one. This will loosen the caliper. These two are not typically too tight. It's not so heavy, you can just let it hang. Now, one thing about this is the brake pads are held with little V-clips. Make sure you take these off, don't lose them. It helps with brake squealing. Now that you've got the caliper off, you can take the brake pads out. As you can see, there's not much left of these brake pads. If they're stubborn, you can take the screwdriver, pry them out. There's more on the inside, very little brake pad left on the outside. The next step is we're going to move up to the 17mm socket. We're going to break loose the bolts holding this frame. Now this one's a bit tough. You may need a braking bar or a mallet. There we go. These two bolts for here and here. Now this rotor should be completely loose. I did the other side before I started the video and it was tight. This one just slid right off. If it is tight and won't come off when you pull it, there's a guard around here. There's no guard in the front. So what you do, you just take a mallet, hit it a couple times on the back, and this will just sag loose, and then you can take it off. So what we're going to do now is immediately just replace the rotor. I'm going to put one lug nut on to hold it in place. Alright, that's snug. Now we'll take this, put it back over, and align it with the bolt holes. Take the two larger 17mm. I'm not going to put a torque wrench under here. I'm just going to hit it a couple times with the rubber mallet. Make sure that's good and tight. There we go. Slide those in. Good on both sides. Now we have new brake pads and new rotors. Put this caliper back on, but as you can tell, it's squeezed in too tight from the previous pads, so it won't go back on. So this is where the C-clamp or the pulley tool comes in handy. I'll show you what to do. Just lay this up here on top of your brake rotor. We'll take this tool, slide it inside, I'm going to tighten it up. You can put a socket in the back of that to keep from having to turn the screws too many times, but this should work fine. Now we're going to take the larger socket. It was a 19. tighten this. You can see it's compressing the piston back in. Should be enough. I just like to push it all the way in, and then when I set the car back down, to match the brakes to push it back out to the depth it needs to go. I'll loosen the screw a bit now so I can get this out. Okay, now it should slide right over with no issues, and even be a little loose. One thing I need to do before tightening that is take these two little clips, like I told you, little wire clips. Slide them in these little holes. This basically helps with the squeaking and constant rubbing on the rotor. Pushes the brake pads out just a little bit. Okay, now put the caliper on. And these lines, or these edges right here, they need to line up with the notch on the bracket. Get the threads started. Okay, both started. I'll switch back to the 14mm socket. I'll tighten these two bolts. That's one. Okay, that's good. Now I'll take this lug nut off. I'll get these snug, but don't tighten them. What we want to do is remove the jack stand. Lower the car back down onto the wheel. Now tighten the lug nuts. Tighten these in an X pattern. That's that. Now we want to put the hubcap back on. Here is the valve stem. There's a notch in the hubcap for that. I'll line that up. One thing you want to do, get in with the emergency brake still on, crank the car, match the brakes a couple times until you get brake pressure. That compresses the calipers that we use the tool for. And the radio kicks on while I'm talking. Alright, for the rear, we're going to need a screwdriver, a mallet, a braking bar, a torque wrench, and a 30mm socket. Some of these may come on and off easier than others. I've already untorqued this, so it's easier for me. The center nut holds the brake drum on. It's a 30mm. Slide this off easy. This has your wheel bearing, everything. So we're going to replace the brake shoes on this. Most brake shoes, no matter how old the vehicle is, are similar. They typically have a spring on the bottom, a spring on the top, or two springs, and a spacer. And if it needs to, you have your cylinder right here, which is pretty easy to change from a couple bolts on the back. But today, these aren't too bad, but since I have new ones, I'm going to go ahead and put them on. One thing to note, the brake shoes are mirror images on one side of the car to the other. So we have to make sure that we're picking the right set for the job. Look at these, and look at these. Make sure we got these lined up right. So I'll put these others in the box. We'll use them on the other side of the car. Alright, this work is not that difficult. What we'll do, take a screwdriver and pull this clip out, and then take this pin out of the back. That's one set. Set those aside. Get the other one. Set those aside. Now what we're going to do is pull this apart from behind this. And now pull one side of this out around the rubber. Try not to cut that. Now you can take this spring off, set it down here, and then this comes loose. And then this spring comes out. Now one thing about this, before you put it back on, you want to tighten it up, because the new shoes are thicker than the old ones. I'll pull this spring back. Take this off as one piece. Set it here. Now we're going to take the new one and go back in reverse order. I'm going to pull this spring back. Well, there we go. This one's back where it needs to be. Next thing we're going to do is to install this. Make sure it's all facing the same way it was when it came off. Remember, try not to damage the rubber on your wheel cylinder. Put the small spring in the bottom. Slide one side in and then pull on the other. That's there. Now, we take our pin and our clip, slide the pin in from the back through the little hole, Now we're going to take this clip, and put it to the side of the pin, and then push on it. And that locks it in place. I'm not sure if that's the preferred technique, but it's the one I got and it works good. Get the next one. Push it to the side here. Take a screwdriver and just push on it. Even everything out, make sure it's good. Now, there's nothing really left to do except to put on the brake drum. Slide everything on easy. And put our nut back on. This is where the torque wrench comes in. You want to torque this to between 133 and 188. I think max on my digital torque wrench is 155, so that's what we're going to use. Okay, it's going to beep because I've got it set to 14 pounds, but I'm just going to turn this and watch it manually. 152. That's good. And that's it. We put the wheel back on. Anytime you do brake work, you obviously have to get in, pump the brakes a bit, let the cylinders bleed out. There's no need to open the brake fluid system or do any liquid bleeding, just if you're changing the pads typically. So we're going to take it for a test drive now. Expect a little brake noise in the beginning. So brand new rotors, brand new pads, they have to wear in a little bit. First thing you do, you test everything before you leave the driveway, obviously. Seems fine, no issues. I'll slam on the brakes in some gravel. Okay, ABS brakes came on just fine, no issues. Get up to 40, 45. Oops, I forgot to take the mail off the back of my car. It's laying in the road. My neighbor's cow is out. Hello, cow. Hello. Well, he's a nice cow. Ooh. Alright. Everything seems fine. I'm gonna head back home. pick up the mail. Hang on. Car. I had it left in the trunk of the car. There's one way down. One more piece there.